Let's look at metabolic dysfunction now. I'm diving into the energy structures of the group and looking into the bodies, looking into everyone's bodies. The first thing that I'm noticing is in the root chakra, the root and second chakra, and there's a little bit of some kind of energy or tendency to go either into deficiency or excess and not so balanced, that energy. So we're going to start there with the root chakra, second chakra energies. And you can see I go into silence. You can see, right? I become very still. My awareness goes into the silent source of creation. And out of the silent source of creation comes information. It comes the value, the resources, all the pieces that we need to address balance as the light energy that goes into those chakras, obviously. But also the imbalance that's been there, that's had a tendency to push the energy in that area either into excess or deficiency, depending on the bodies that we're working with here, has a scaffolding that holds it in place. And the scaffolding is made of beliefs. Also, for some people, impressions and memory patterns, especially, well, everybody. If we look into the astral level of the physiology, where the threads of awareness go all the way through space and time, we see that everybody has in their past some experiences of trauma associated with the reproductive process. Everybody has. That's not a good thing. I mean, I smile, but I mean, I'm just smiling because it's time to balance all of this. So what that does is it creates a portion or like an area, like a node, but fairly large, of fear that sits between the second and third chakras. There's fear right there. And a lot of us know that sometimes that's a place where we feel fear, right? It's kind of in the stomach. So just below the stomach, between the navel and the stomach, there's a place where fear. And the energy that's balancing the fear is the energy of giving. It gives. It's like paying a debt. It's paying a debt. A lot of the experiences that we have from the past, the harsher or rougher memories, are connected to letting go of conceptions and ideas and expectations, and letting go of a lot of what is not naturally oneself. Letting go of what's not oneself. And even the harshest, most rough or uncomfortable experiences have here's the lens, right, guys? This is the lens. They have a useful value in allowing us to loosen ourselves from the material field and find the way back to the essential self. I have to do a little side trip right here. This is for the lady with the demon in her house. And it's actually a discarnate. And also for our friend who asked the question about the metabolic dysfunction. So we're still kind of within that framework. But allergies. And they're wonderful, right? They're purifying. So I let them do their thing because they leach all the heat out of the body, which is a great thing. Anyway, a different side tangent, which is there are subtle forms. Sometimes we can define them as discarnates or demonic forms or whatever, but they are living, they are subtle expressions of consciousness which lean into their separation from wholeness. Okay, so they define themselves on the basis of their separation from God, their separation from totality. And they remain subtle, so they are impacting the field, right? So the field is down here. And as I mentioned before, if we want to heal something, we have to get down into the field and we restructure the field. Well, what if there's something already down there already restructuring the field? And we have that in this case. For example, with metabolic dysfunction is a perfect example. There can be a potent, like a pocket of anger that's so deep and it's so thick and it doesn't come up to the surface. It just stays down in the field area and it just keeps shaping the field and shaping the field. So if we go down with our awareness and we're like, I need to reshape the field so that I can have better health at the surface, and we find, oh, well, there's already something here that's contributing to the shape of this field. And it has a kind of an intention with it. It has a kind of living presence with it. And there's a lot of, guys, it's a lot of living presence. The closer our awareness gets to the field of pure, absolute, unmanifest being, the more life there is, right? So naturally, that's where we find living presence. Living presence. And it just drains the system at an extremely fundamental level. It takes a lot of energy to deal with anger and really dark, rough emotions, right? A lot of energy. So what we're doing is we go to the field that's deeper than that. So we have the field, we have the abstract field that forms the context for all of our thoughts and feelings. But beneath the abstract field is the gap between the manifest and unmanifest level of creation. So that's where awareness goes. And what I love about this friend from England who mentioned this about the metabolic dysfunction is he mentions sometimes having experiences and that he kind of steps back from it and he can see the anger, he can see the fury, he can see the rage, he can see it. When you see it, you are bigger than it. And seeing it, and again, this is the lens, being the healer. The lens sometimes is the healer. When you see it, you stop identifying with it. Instead, you have the moment to say, well, that's this really big, unresolved, potent package of discordant feelings. And we all have these types of packages. So this is for everybody. This is this big package of discordant feelings, but I'm like witnessing it, right? Because my awareness has gone into a place that's more quiet, that's less, I would say, impactful as far as creating specific effects at the surface, because we get down to that level that's just really kind of self-sufficient in its own nature. That level of ourself that just witnesses. It doesn't do a lot. It just witnesses. It just, there's just presence. And what happens is one can see, well, there's this big pot of garbage, and then there's me, and I'm looking at the pot of garbage. And at that moment, you, self-identification is free of the garbage. The garbage can still be there. You can still be looking at it, but there's a part of you that's sitting back looking at it. And that part is filled with power and autonomy. And all the resources, you have all the resources to deal with the garbage. And the garbage looks very small from that perspective. And I know that sometimes pockets of discordant feelings or unresolved emotions can feel unwieldy. But from the perspective of stepping back and looking at it, which I know you can do, I already know that, all of a sudden you're in a place where what you're dealing with, your essential nature, is not unwieldy, nor is that. Because the pocket of dissonance, when it's witnessed, has limits. It has boundaries. It has edges. And the edges mean that it's not infinite. when one views it from the witnesser, one realizes, but I am infinite. So you are always bigger. You are bigger than this thing. Part of the story is intentionally not entertaining it. Part of the story is to choose to not feed it. We don't feed these. These are like wild beasts that snarl and roam about the outside of the house, and we don't invite them in and we don't feed them. It's very important not to entertain. So if there are habits and patterns of entertaining or family traditions of entertaining, family traditions, then that gives rise to a kind of a, what do we want to say? Like a conflict, an inner conflict. Oh, well, part of the reason I came to this earth was to heal some of the transgenerational stresses that have been holding my family back for ever so long. So don't I need to entertain this to some degree in order to eliminate it? And then Dorothy's saying, don't entertain it. The elimination is through the indifference and through, I would say, a recollecting of your personal power, somehow like little threads or tentacles. And this is for the lady too, the lady with the demon in her house. Little tentacles of your personal power have been sort of extracted and are in possession of these forms. And they need to be recalled, and they are being recalled. Just seeing it, just knowing it. When you see it and you choose to recall your power, then your power is recalled. So this is energetically, it's like a visceral feeling of all these forms of dissonance that would love for you to identify with them. They would love for you to say, oh, well, that's just my bad. That's my bad. That's me being bad. That's me being nasty or gross or whatever, that it's me. Your essential nature, your truth, is what heals you. And your essential nature is absolute good. The human soul is this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And what I see happening is the healing intelligence of the body, which comes up in the form of devatas, like angelic forms, you could say, that are able to follow all the threads at the astral level of the physiology that have allowed your power to be spread about in this field area in a way that is not orderly and is not conducive to your highest health. And so the healing intelligence goes through the threads, and it follows each thread to the pocket of your power that needs to be returned. And all that power comes down into the solar plexus is the power center, right? So it comes down into the solar plexus area, and that just helps provide support also for the first and second chakra areas of the body. Your personal power. I mean, it's so natural and it's so spontaneous that when there are experiences of trauma from the past, that those trauma experiences cause a weakening in the system in that area, right? So part of the story is going back through these same threads of the astral body back to the past incarnations. And those moments, or even in this lifetime where some trauma was experienced in the reproductive area, in the reproductive process. And it's laid down at the feet of the divine. All those experiences, those rough experiences, they provide a context for saying, thy will be done. What it is that you need to heal this, because it's a big thing for a human being to heal. It's a really big thing. It's too big. It's too big and it's too complicated. And so in each one of those moments, there is a giving oneself back to the divine. Just this was so, so, so rough. All of my memories, all of the impressions, all of the energies that it sort of left remnants in the physiology and remnants in the field of consciousness, then I just go back to the divine. I'm just going back to this, to the lap of God. Where is the lap of God? We talked about that a lot yesterday too. It's in that gap. It's in that area between this material level of creation and that infinite, unbounded, absolute level of creation. And the lap of God is a place of safety and security and hope and comfort and ease and grace and love. So I choose, this is the not entertaining part, I choose to use this to be in the lap of God. That's where I am. I just go home. I choose it as the motivation to go home where I belong. Eventually, that feeling of being in the lap of God stabilizes with the nervous system. All the rough, difficult, challenging experiences are the motive. They arise to motivate one to go back to the lap of God. And by going back again and again, especially from, it's one thing to be like in your happy space and then also in the lap of God. It's like something, it's like a song made of notes that are very close to each other. Da 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 da. Very, very close notes to each other. But symphonies, you guys, symphonies, they have the whole spectrum of the musical field, right? The ear is hearing not just low notes and high notes, but even auditory textures produced by the battery, by the drum section. They call that the battery. And you know what I'm saying? And this is human life. This is human life. Human life is also simple, especially when we're young. We learn songs like Frere Jacques, but when we're grown-ups, we have the songs that are rich. They're rich with texture and nuance, and the music creates sensations in the brain and in the memory centers that give rise to such exquisite understanding of the way the light of the divine shows up in this world. Music is good stuff. So the same with energy healing, the same with the way we handle or deal with imbalances or illnesses. We're going down, we bring our awareness down into that gap so that we're able to look at the whole field of the whole foundational field that ranges all the way from the darkest of the dark to the lightest of the light. And it's not that we run away from it. It's that the whole thing is held in a state of balance that leads life toward the goal of ever greater intimacy with the divine. Everything does. All the notes, the low notes, the high notes, the dark notes, the bright notes, they all lead one back to a deeper, more profound understanding of the nature of how the intelligence of creation rises up from the source and becomes us, becomes our bodies. So beautiful. That was quite a side tangent, but let's look again at metabolic dysfunction. Metabolic dysfunction, we can look, and we've done some healings for like mitochondria and the gut bacteria, and some of certainly the mitochondria have a very fundamental role in providing and producing robust energy for the body. And of course, we can look also at the epigenome and the DNA and how the cells function, like to uphold and support more, I would say, more integrated functioning of the cells. So we're just looking at that. And there are healing intelligences, devatas, that oversee the mitochondria, that oversee the gut, that oversee the cellular functioning and structure. I would say, again, going to the mitochondria is more fundamental for the health of the cell overall. I mean, the cell probably has some elements as well. The cells feed the mitochondria, but the mitochondria produce energy for the cells. So there's this nice relationship going on there. So in the gap between the cells providing nutritional resource for the mitochondria and the mitochondria taking that nutritional resource and then providing energy, the signature of the lap of God establishes itself. On the lap of God, that relationship, that union with the divine, we could call it, the lap of God sounds like a little child, and we are grown-ups, but union with the divine, the union with the divine feeling, but it's still in that relationship, we are still, as human beings, we are still specific and delicate and made for a sort of in a concise manner for a specific purpose, right? As is the relationship between the cell and the mitochondria. Love emanates from that gap in the center of the relationship, the core, the heart of the relationship between the cells and the mitochondria. Not all the cells have mitochondria, by the way, but certainly the cells of the heart. I was thinking we need to do some healings for the physical heart and circulatory system anyway. That's a good place to check in, isn't it? Lots of people raising hands. Bring the hands here. We feel the awareness go into the heart and feel the hands. Feel the energy of awareness as it enters and penetrates the cells, the muscle cells of the heart. How beautiful is the relationship between the heart cells and their mitochondria. There's something like 5,000 mitochondria for every heart cell. So right there in that relationship, the energy medicine is the same love that's shared between the divine and the individual. The heart becomes an organ, a living organ of highest expression of the relationship of love, the highest relationship of love that exists in creation, which is that love between us as individuals and the divine. It's like the organ that sings that song. The mitochondria are so well supported by bringing this energetic into the heart. And of course, when the mitochondria are well supported, they will support the cells, the life and the power of the cells. From a more superficial level, as the hands are here and we're feeling this transformation of the relationship, nurturing and healing of the relationship, there's also a feeling of power that comes into the body. Strong, vital, robust energy starts to course through the body. It supports greater flow. And this should be helpful for people who have like neuropathy or problems with flow of energy out to the extremities of the body. You can feel it coming from the center of the body to all the extremities of the body. That energy of power. And of course, when it gets to the solar plexus is all about power. And here it's now all of a sudden making sense to me why we did the other healing first, the one where we brought back your personal power, where that exercise for reclaiming personal power in the solar plexus area. Now I see, oh yes, but now we have added another layer onto that, which is the power that comes from a completely balanced, healthy, robust relationship between the individual and the divine, but also between the individual mitochondria and the cells. So we create layers of it. And the blueprint, right? The blueprint is created through what's already present as our relationship with the divine. But because of this healing, it also informs the relationship between the individual and the divine, so that that relationship also becomes closer, more intimate, more balanced. We're always looking, when we're going to the root or the seed of a problem or issue, we're always looking for balance, because almost inevitably, the problem is going to lie in either excess or deficiency. So back to balance, all the way in, all the way up and down for all the chakras, up and down. Balance. And that gives rise to the flow of energy, right? Starts to loop around between individuality and divinity. It's really beautiful. Oh, I could go on that for a long time, but that was the last webinar. So on to the next one. Prevention of brain degeneration. Okay, so brain degeneration comes from lack of efficient metabolism of resources by the cells of the nervous system in the brain. So basically it's a metabolic issue. I'm looking. Metabolic issues have really good different positive layers of action steps we can take. We're going to go down and work with the field here, but before we work with the field, I just would like to say that because it's a metabolic issue, their food choices are an essential component, right? So what we're aiming for is at the surface to be able to make food choices, and for those cells of the nervous system to be able to metabolize the nutrients in a way that really nourishes them most deeply. Definitely ties into the last couple of healings that we've been doing, because one of them, for example, is that for all of us, the changes and transformations that humanity is going through at this time, especially in the Western world, which really basically everybody here is, a citizen of the Western world, essentially Europe, Australia, America, South America, South Africa even. And so, it weighs on each of us in a different manner. Each of us, we cannot escape. We cannot be unconnected or disconnected from the massive transformation that's occurring at this time. As I said in a previous webinar, the giant is lurching. The giant is lurching, and we are small compared to the giant of civilization, Western civilization. And we all have we came at this time, we have our role to play, but it's a big thing. And here I was going to say something specific on the surface, but we're already coming down into the field area, because in the field area, that's where we as individuals are connected with the wholeness and with the collective field and with this moment in history of the earth, right? So much happening. So great a need for truth to surface, for truth to be the informant for everyone. So awareness settles down. You see me, you can watch me, right? You can see what's going on. So I don't have to say it, but anyway, settling down to the source of creation, the home of all truth, the home of absolute truth. And seeing truth with a capital T rising up and coming forward in its brightest and best, in its purest form. Truth as your essential nature and truth as pure life force is being directed into the brain. In the limbic system, and here's where it kind of relates back to some of the earlier healings, where emotions are processed, balance We're bringing balance to this area. A tendency there, a little bit tendency toward excess or deficiency. And what I'm looking at is very interesting because, I'm looking out at the field of all of us, right? And I'm seeing different patterns in different people and different habits and tendencies. And some people's nervous systems are more flexible. And there's a greater ability to navigate the range of feelings and emotions and then still maintain a sort of central balanced condition or state. Whereas other people, we get a little bit off one way or the other and become overwhelmed very easily. The aim for the cells of the nervous system is for that anchoring to wholeness and flexibility to navigate the whole range of human experiences and emotions, not just in the limbic system. The limbic system is responsible. The third ventricle is responsible, the area where the organs are responsible for gauging how much we expose ourselves to, essentially, how much we entertain. Remember, I was saying we don't want to over entertain the darkness that exists in creation because there's plenty of that. But there's also so much light. And we want to keep ourselves aligned with the universal proportion of skewing toward life, skewing toward positivity, skewing toward evolution. There's a proportion in there that's kind of an ideal proportion, but it's not specific. There's a range so that each person can find their perfect balance. So balance is coming here right into the center. It's coming right down in the center of the whole field of the head, the brain, the third ventricles right in the middle there. The balance is so lovely and so soothing. I would say it's a facet or a feature of that feeling of being held in the embrace of the divine. It's a feature of that feeling of being completely balanced. And the balance becomes finer, 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 until it reaches infinite balance. And from the silence of the infinite, it comes back out to the cells of the brain and informs the metabolic functions in the brain. The balance between how much nutritional content is brought to the brain through the circulatory system, and then how much of that content is absorbed by the cells, by the nerve cells, and then how do the nerve cells use that content. And balance is washing through that whole system, the whole metabolic system of the brain. Plus, there seems to be liquid white light. Liquid white light is like a kind of like a subtle metabolic resource, right? It comes in like it feeds, but it feeds energetically. Oh, nice. An energetic feast for the brain. Love. I do a lot of cooking. It's sort of one of my jobs besides this job. I cook for my family, raise a garden, cook the food. Every stroke is a stroke of adoration for my family. The shift is actually happening in the connection between the third ventricle area and the heart. And it's a restructuring of the way we look upon ourselves and the way we love ourselves. Because to open up healthier metabolic function in the brain cells, in the nerve cells, the underlying field has to take on the position of I adore you. I adore you. I love you. Me. I mean, and not, I don't want that to sound like vain or arrogant or something like that. But the the very kind of delicate, small parts of the body functioning that are responsible for bringing specific types of nutrients up to the brain, that area has to sit on a foundational structure, a field structure of adoration, adoration for the body, adoration for the self, adoration for the range of experiences that come to us as human beings, even when the ATM machine eats your card, or even when even when you fall down and make a big cut in your head, or whatever the different things that we experience. It's human experience. It's human experience. And human experience is this incredible gift that that is bestowed upon us by the Creator just for a few years, like 80 years maybe, which is nothing, right? 80 years is a blip. It's like a flash in the pan compared to the story of the universe. So every experience has the potential. This is the lens to bring us home to the lap of God, because nothing in this material world lasts forever. The card shall be returned. The stitches will heal. The heart will heal. I think we have one lady here who had a heart attack recently. Your heart can heal. It can heal completely too. It can heal totally. Like all the cells heal. But here is where what's happening is the energetic that comes in while the physical form is restructuring itself. The, the cells are given the energy feast of adoration for the form and for the opportunity of life as a human being, and for the pleasure of hanging out with ourselves. We get to hang out with us. Each person gets to hang out with themselves. And there's a good friend there. It's the nicest person you know. It's the person you know the most intimately. You might think, no, no, Dorothy, you're nicer than me. No, I'm not nicer than you. I just, I just know myself better than you know me. You came directly from the womb of the divine. So precious.